Hello, science fair students. This video is to help you get started on the next section of the science fair, which is all about the results. Once you start the results, that will be when you have your data collected from your procedure, and it's where we're going to organize our tables and our graphs and the beginnings of organizing what our data is telling us. Even if you haven't done your procedure yet, you can still get this process started. There are a few things that you can set up in order to actually help your procedure go a little more smoothly. This is what the assignment looks like in Google Classroom. I am certain that you have seen this already because this is where you clicked to watch this video. So there are 3 links at the top of this document that are going to help you along the process. The first one is the instructions, then there's an exemplar, and the rubric. I'm going to show you all 3. This is where you're going to be typing in all of your work though. So there are 3 parts of this assignment. There are some paragraphs that you're going to write. They're going to all go in this first box. You're also going to make a couple of data tables. They're going to go in the second box. And finally, some graphs. They're going to go in the third box. I'm going to go over to the instructions. As I'm going through these instructions, you should have a blue copy of the instructions in front of you, highlighting the things that stick out to you as the most important, making maybe little notes of things that you don't want to forget as we go along together. I'm going to talk about the first part, paragraphs. There are at least 2 paragraphs that you're going to write for this section, maybe 3 depending on your project. The paragraphs in this section are pretty dry, so they're going to be just like very much about your data, just what it says. The first group said this, the second group said that. And you're basically just listing the high points of your data. So you're going to say things like the control group was this amount, or the second experimental group was this amount. You're not going to list every single piece of data that you collected because that would be super, super, super boring and nobody would want to read that. Instead, you're just going to list the pieces of data that stick out the most. So for sure, your control group, if you have one, any experimental groups like that stuck out in terms of like they were especially high or especially low, or things that were kind of conflicting each other. You're going to point out some of the main points of the data. There's some pointers here about how to word things in a way. Oftentimes I see people write things like the rubbing alcohols group, like pretend your experiment was about rubbing alcohol. And this is a weird way to write things. So make sure that you're writing things in a way that sounds right. That's something that I'll check for when I'm grading. And then the last part of this is when you're writing your paragraphs, you do not want to write any analysis. So like if you were writing about how one of your groups was a really, really big average, you're going to be tempted to be like, because, or explain why you think that average was so big. Don't do that. There should be no analysis. You're just stating the facts. You're just talking about what the data says, not what it means. We're going to talk about the analysis part in the conclusion. Your second paragraph needs to talk about any qualitative observations. So your first one was all about the numbers. The second one is all about the qualitative observations that you made. Don't list every little thing, like my little brother was busy playing Legos in the other room when I did my experiment. Like, sure, that's an observation that you could make about your experiment, but it has nothing to do with the important parts of your experiment. So this one is just the qualitative observations. Those are things that are not numbers that you noticed about your experiment. So it turned this color, it had this smell, it made some smoke, it took a lot longer than it was anticipated. Maybe those could all be good qualitative. The last paragraph is one that you maybe might have and maybe might not have. You'll know you need this paragraph if you have to do any math to get to your dependent variable. A lot of students who are doing density are students that are going to have this paragraph. So if you collected a mass and you collected a volume and part of your experiment was about density, then you need to have a very short paragraph about how you calculated that density, or whatever it is the thing that you're doing. So those are the paragraphs. Those are the things, those are the things that are going to go in this first section on the assignment, all 3 paragraphs, but at least 2. The next part of the instruction talks about the tables. You do need to have data tables, and it's a lot like what we've done in labs, for the labs that we've done in this class. You're going to have at least 2 tables. Just like for labs that we've done, you're going to have one that shows the trials with your averages, and another one that shows your statistical analysis, so the mean, the median, and the range. So those are the 2 tables right here. Make sure that you're putting a title on these tables. Make sure that you have units in all the boxes. All of the things that we've talked about through the labs that we've done. You also have some resources if you go to Google Classroom and look at the making tables and making graphs assignments. The next section, the last one, is all about your graphs. Again, this is just like what we've done for our labs in class. You're going to have one graph that just shows the trials and another graph that just shows the averages. Do not make a graph that shows mean, median, and range. Make sure you're following the instructions here. And those last things, the tables are going to go in this box. Your graphs are going to go in this box. That's going to round out this whole assignment. If you need any help, there's an exemplar too that's attached at the top. This is somebody from a few years back that has really great paragraphs if you need to see how they worded everything. This person did not need a third paragraph, so they don't have an example there. They have some pretty great tables here as well. They have all their units, a title, everything's labeled correctly, it looks good. And of course, they have their statistical analysis and their graphs as well. Lastly, the last link is the rubric. When you are totally finished with this assignment, the most appropriate, best student choice you could make is to go through and check each row. So as you're checking each row, do I have a 4? Do I have all the things that are in this list? And checking through each one. Make sure you're checking all of the bits and pieces because a lot of these things have "and" in them. And you have to have all parts in order to get a 4 on that section. It's a little bit long, but checking your work is going to save you a lot of time in the long run. Of course, if you need any help with this assignment, office hours or an email are both a great choice to reach out to me. Good luck.